All right, questions for Coach Lloyd, please raise your hand. Start with Brian Peterson.
Tommy, how much would you attribute any of this to not playing 12 days in terms of the turnovers and defense early?
Okay, first off, I thought you were going to say to attribute what to winning by 16.
Is that how you kind of look at it, though?
Listen, hey, guys, I got a lot of respect for Coach Hopkins. He's a friend of mine. I've battled against him when he and I were at Syracuse and Gonzaga, and then when he was at Washington and I was at Gonzaga. I mean, playing against them's a pain. And I know obviously they haven't gone off to a great start this year, but I think they're a better team than their record indicates. And they're a pain. I mean, that zone, that they seem a little more committed now to playing that zone than they were earlier in the year. And they add the big fella, so they have another a 7-3 guy they throw in there that's interesting. And he's actually from the Northwest, so I've seen him play a lot, and that kid's gotten so much better. I'm really happy for him. But they do an unbelievable job of creating turnovers when you're trying to pass inside the zone, and then when you're trying to pass from inside to outside the zone. And you can't simulate it at practice. Hopefully it was a great learning experience for our guys, and we got the win. So all in all, I'm happy.
Thank you.
Next question, Troy Hutchison.
Can you talk about Dillon Perry's game and how he's been able to, not only score, but rebound and assist, kind of do everything for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, Dillon's a do-all player, and he's been working really hard on his shot. And, we've kind of been doing some tweaks here and there. And I just told him, listen, we don't need to stress out about it because you do so many other things well. Let's not forget about those and just focus on maybe something that's not your strength. But to see him knock down a couple of threes, I think was great for our team and great for his confidence. I really challenged. We had individual meetings with the guys, and I really challenged Pella and Dillon to start rebounding better. I feel like Dillon was only averaging about 4.1 rebounds per game, and Pella was like 2.9, and you guys have been next to those. They're two physical specimens. I mean, they got to be aggressive on the glass, and I think they had 19 rebounds between them today. So the message was received, and they get all the credit for going out there and making it happen.
When Dillon is doing that, what does that do for the team and the offense in general?
Well, I mean, Dillon gets guys shots. He gets guys good shots, and he's a big guy, and he's able to make penetrating passes. So, you guys know I love 2-point shots, and he gets us a lot of great action around the basket, and he's getting really good in transition. And then, against that zone, he and Kerr kind of had a nice little connection going there, and that zone, they can kind of play off non-shooters and extend on shooters. I mean, they adjust on that zone. I mean, and so they did a good job fighting Kerr, and Kerr did a great job having his feet ready and knocking down some tough, half contested threes. But those are some shots you got to shoot against Washington.
Next question, David Kelly.
Hey, Tommy, you talked about their defense and kind of how problematic that is. Do you think that was one of the reasons that after you guys got that early lead and were knocking down shots early, that maybe the kids started settling for jumpers rather than maybe trying to work the ball inside a little bit more?
Well, I mean, in theory, for sure. I mean, the deal with that zone is there's a cumulative effect to it. They just hang with it, and they make subtle little adjustments in it. And you might make some shots early, and then you don't make them, and then you start getting a little anxious and a little tight. And then they come down to the other end, and what's really interesting when you play Washington is their offense complements their defense. If they get a steal or a turnover, they're running it down, trying to dunk it. So they'll play fast. If they don't, they'll bring the ball up, slow up the court. They'll get in their little ISO dribble situations, and they'll kind of run a very simple action and kind of pick the matchup they want. So it really it allows them in a certain way to control the game at both ends of the floor. And I think, it took our guys a little bit while to kind of get comfortable with that today. So they executed their plan well, and luckily our guys were good enough today to kind of stay up all game. I mean, I think they cut it to like 4 or 5 at one point in the second half, but all in all, we did a good job kind of keeping our lead at 8-10 and kind of riding that out over the course of the game.
And was there any concern on your end that you didn't really get a whole lot out of your bench, or is that maybe kind of what we're going to begin to see now that we're into these Pac-12 games?
No, I mean, listen, our bench players are good players, and Justin didn't have a great night. He kind of maybe it's his first time playing against that zone, and he had some passing errors. I think he had 3 turnovers in the first half, and Umar's energy didn't look great tonight. And when they got in there, he got a couple offensive rebounds, but then they got a couple offensive rebounds on him. So those were the things I saw tonight. So that's the reason we made the decisions we did. But I'm going to give Pella a ton of credit. I mean, Pella kind of tweaked his ankle there, and he kind of looked a little shaky in the first half, and then he kind of settled in, and we went small that last stretch, maybe just to give us some better defensive matchups, and fortunately it worked. And Pella gets a ton of credit for kind of toughing it out on a tweaked ankle.
Next question, Justin Spears.
We're not going to hear from you until then, but just your expectations for this weekend. It's your first rivalry game, and what's your relationship like with Bobby Hurley?
Well, I mean, we know each other a little bit. We haven't talked a lot, but every time it's been really cordial. I mean, I have a ton of respect for him. I mean, he's obviously was a great player in college that I grew up watching, and always admired him, and have a ton of respect for that Duke pedigree. And then Arizona State, I haven't dug into him too much. I've watched him on TV a few times, but yet to really watch any film on him. So that'll give me a good project to do tomorrow. And I mean, I know. Rivalry games are exciting for the fans. The way we're approaching it is just the next game on our schedule. It's the next hurdle in the Pac-12 race that we're running, and we want to do the best job we can clearing that hurdle.
Next question, Bruce Pascoe.
Hey, Tommy, just you kind of answered it a little bit. Just wondering about the end of the game. What were the keys there? You mentioned the defensive matchups you tried to get. Any other thing that kind of maybe felt like you were getting back to normal there at the end, really playing well?
Yeah, I mean, we had energy. We made a few plays, got a couple rebounds, and maybe picked up a couple loose balls. And our defense has been really good, and tonight it wasn't for long stretches in that game. And we're going to sit down and watch it and address it. But I think Washington gets some credit for that. I mean, Terrell Brown was spectacular. I mean, that's the first time I've really seen him play or scouted him, and he's a heck of a player, and he gets a ton of credit for coming in here tonight and giving his old team 28. So you tip your hat to him, and he had, I think, 6 assists, 1 turnover, 5 steals. I mean, that's a heck of a game. But I told our guys, listen, he's a really good player, and he's got a ton of freedom, and he's got a ton of experience. He might win a few of the battles, but our ultimate goal is to win the war as a team, and luckily we were able to do that.
Next question, Brian Peterson.
How important is it for Kerr to get hot like this in terms of with his threes to where you're not worried when he puts that up?
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm never worried when Kerr puts up too many shots. I mean, I've seen him make a bunch of them, and when you play the way Kerr does, the coach-player relationship, there has to be a mutual respect and an understanding. I've got to give him freedom. I don't know if Kerr's as good a player if you put the shackles on him. Now, Kerr's got to handle that freedom with responsibility, which he does most of the time. And, I've the shooting and the shot selection, we talk about it a little bit, but I told him I want to have his feet ready. I want him to be aggressive. Now I want him to continue to grow as a playmaker, and find little different techniques that will play to Kerr Kreis's advantage. Kerr's game is probably going to be different than Dillon, so I want Kerr to really lock into those. And I think he's at a really cool part of his career where he has confidence. He's starting to have some success, and to be honest with you, I'm going to really challenge him to make a big jump here in the next month.
Thank you.
Next question, Steve Rivera.
Yeah, Tommy, I'm sure you experienced this at Gonzaga, where if you don't route a team, people have concerns, fans and people like that. How is it here, you think?
I mean, Steve, I'm not paying too much attention to that. For me, I just, in those games, I try to keep my head about me, and I reminded our guys, I think the under 12 media timeout in the second half, I just wrote +8 on the board. I'm like, guys, we're up 8. Okay, so let's not panic. We don't need to win this game by 40. We just need to make sure we win it. So settle into the game and understand at the end in conference games, you're not going to win every one in a blowout, and you might not be any blowout. So you got to get comfortable playing close, hard-fought games, and I think we're getting there as a team. So I'm a result-oriented guy, and I tell my staff I'm most focused on 2 analytics, W's and L's. And we got the win tonight, so I'm going to feel good about it and roll up my sleeves and figure out areas we can get better, and hopefully Saturday, we'll play a little bit better than we did on Monday.
If I could, one more. Ben continues to do what he does. Does he surprise you at all any time? Because he continues to do really well.
I mean, he's learning. It's just so much fun to watch him learn. I mean, I know I felt like a little bit early in that second half, he was a little bit out of sorts, just with the movement within the zone. And, so we subbed him, and I told Murph to go talk to him and, maybe to, find a couple of different pockets in that zone. And he did a great job of listening. And you saw him get down on that baseline in there and attack the center. And he's athletic and strong enough to do it, and got a couple of and ones. So he just, I'm not surprised because he's doing it every night. I mean, he's really consistent, and he's doing it on a daily basis. And I'm really happy for him. And he and I have had some great talks, and we're both locked into just winning for Arizona basketball right now.
Next question, Jason Shearer.
Coach, you went with the smaller lineup a little bit in the second half. Just why'd you do that? Thoughts on that lineup? And then are you a little concerned with Azuolas the last few games?
No. I mean, and Zoo, he had he has been really good defensively this year. And that was an area of concern we all had coming into the season. And he really answered it and was really guarding well on the perimeter. He maybe got stuck on a few screens and didn't have the urgency he had on Matthews. But, coming into the game, Matthews was a low percentage shooter. And then, he decides to make his first 4 threes. So, it wasn't anything crazy. I mean, he hadn't been out of the game yet in the second half. So I think he'd played the first 12 minutes, and I just was, hey, let's give Pella a chance and see how it goes. And it's just one of those deals. The last 8 minutes, you had a lineup out there that was playing pretty well on both ends of the floor. So we just wrote it out, and nothing really, detrimental to Zoo. The biggest thing with Zoo that I have is, he's got to rebound better, and he's got to take care of the ball. He's got to really, really hone in on those two areas. And I think if he does, he'll make a big jump.
Next question, back to David Kelly.
You talked a little bit about, giving Kerr freedom out there on the floor, Tommy, but do you feel like at times you need to, if not reel in his chippiness, at least get him to temper it so he doesn't get himself in trouble out there?
I mean, it's a fine line. Kerr needs that edge probably to help him function at a high level out there. And he and I definitely have conversations about it, and we'll continue to have conversations about it. But Kerr's a mature guy, and he's open to those conversations. But, I said this on the radio. I think the biggest strength of this team is they got a great spirit. And I don't want to crush that spirit, So I'm walking a fine line as a coach, maybe traditionally, you would get a little bit more upset at some things. But I'm trying to look at the big picture of these guys. I'm trying to coach them, as individuals within a team concept. And so, with Kerr, we'll continue to work on, him being at his best and trying to figure out exactly what his best looks like and how chippy that needs to be.
We have time for one more question. We'll go back to Bruce Pascoe.
Hey, Tommy, I was just wondering what your plans are for this week with, everything's going to be weird scheduling wise, it seems like, but you don't play till Saturday again. How do you plan to use that time? And what do you think about, I was also wondering what you think about ASU playing on Wednesday?
I mean, we'll probably take tomorrow off and meet as a staff and kind of form a plan for how we want to attack the rest of the week. And maybe a few of us will sneak out recruiting on a Tuesday night, trying to catch games when we can. And then, we'll hone in and we'll have, 3 good days of prep on Arizona State. And to be honest with you, we're 100% focused on Arizona State. I mean, that's our next opponent on Saturday, and we're fortunate to get 3 days to prepare. So it kind of builds like a normal conference week. Like normally, once you get into your normal conference schedule, you have a Sunday off, you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to prep, and then you play on Thursday. So we kind of get that 3-day build up, and hopefully we'll do a great job, breaking these guys down for the players, and the players will absorb it, and we'll come out and execute and play a good game.
Do you think it helps or hurts that ASU plays on Wednesday while you're doing all that?
I mean, I don't think it factors in, you know, I mean, I think right now, you know, everybody's going to be looking for who has an advantage, who has a disadvantage, and we're all going to be in situations where it looks like we have an advantage one game and the next game we have a slight disadvantage because we had a shorter prep time. So right now in our current situation, we just need to be thankful when we get games in. And I was really thankful to play the game tonight. It wasn't perfect, but, you know, it was a lot more fun to play it than it was to sit at home and do nothing.
All right, thanks.
That's all we have for tonight. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys. See you this weekend.